Hi everyone, this is Charity from the Santa Clara City Library, and today we're going to do a science experiment. As you probably already know, our summer reading theme is Reading is Magical. And since science can also be magical, I thought some science experiments would be fun. For today's experiment, we're going to see what happens when we add a base with an acid. And you'll find out that it kind of looks something like what happens when a volcano is erupting. So if you'd like to try this at home, the things that you'll need are a 1/4 cup of vinegar, 4 to 6 tablespoons of baking soda, an empty bottle, a couple drops of dish soap, and some food coloring. I've got some red food coloring here, yellow, you can use any color that you'd like. If you'd like to make your own volcano, I can show you how to do a paper mache volcano later with newspaper, flour, and water. You can also just use some basic aluminum foil or a party hat. Before we make the volcano, let's look at the chemical reaction itself. The base that we'll be using today is baking soda. Baking soda is a compound of sodium, hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. These compounds break up when they come in contact with an acid, like vinegar or lemon juice. The carbon and oxygen separate and form a gas called carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the same type of gas used to make carbonation in sodas. So think about it. What happens if you shake up soda? The gas gets very excited and it's trying to spread out, but there's really no place for it to go. Now, if we open up the bottle, the gas can escape. All right. Our chemical reaction is going to be very similar to that. The gas is going to get very excited and try to spread out. So, let's see what happens when we make our volcano. I'm going to show you with a very small container first so you can see it in action. So I have put in a couple of tablespoons of baking soda, and now I'm going to add some vinegar so you can see what happens. So before we do that, let's add just a little bit of dish soap, and we'll make this one yellow. Just a couple drops so it's better to see. All right. Here we go. Did you see how the carbon dioxide gas was formed when the baking soda and vinegar came in contact with one another? What do you think would happen if you add more vinegar or water or increase the amount of baking soda? Make some predictions ahead of time and see if you're right. Why do you think the reactions changed? These are all fun ways to discover the magic of science. Now, before we go off to experiment further with these items, let's go ahead and see that reaction one more time and what it might look like coming out of a volcano. So we're going to use our larger bottle, and because it's a larger bottle, we're also going to put in a larger amount of baking soda to vinegar. So it's basically the same amount of vinegar as it is the same amount of baking soda. And I'm using a funnel to try and get some of this out to help get the baking soda in. But if that doesn't work, we'll use something else. Okay. My funnel doesn't seem to want to be working, so I'm just going to use my hands and as careful as possible dump it in. It's okay if it gets on the outside. All right, add a little bit more. If we don't have enough baking soda, because this bottle's larger, it's not going to come out the top. since I lost a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit more. The measurements don't have to be exact. Okay, that's probably good. All right, since we did yellow last time, I think I'm gonna do red this time. Don't want to forget the dish soap. And to use our party hat for a volcano, we're gonna snip off the top. Might need to do a little bit more than that. Yes, just a little bit more. And we want to make sure that our party hat is either at least at the same level as our opening or lower. Okay, now that we have something that looks more like a volcano, let's see what happens when we add the vinegar. By putting in the dish soap, we're seeing a little bit more of those bubbles. And you can keep adding vinegar to make the reaction occur again and again. I hope you enjoyed making that volcano. I will show you how to do the paper mache volcano here shortly. Don't forget to try your experiment inside your paper mache volcano when it's all done. And don't forget to experiment using different amounts of baking soda and vinegar and just kind of seeing what happens. To make the paper mache volcano, you'll need to have lots of strips of newspaper. It could be even ads from the newspaper. They don't have to be cut perfectly. You can even rip them if you want, but you want them in smaller strips. Then we're going to take our bottle and attach it to something sturdy. This is a piece of cardboard. I'm using tape so it doesn't move around. And then I'm also going to use some aluminum foil just to give it a little bit more stability when I'm putting the paper mache on. You don't have to do that. You can certainly just go straight to the paper mache. It'll just take a little bit more of that. So after I have the foil all wrapped around, I have a nice base to work with, I'm going to make my paper mache. Add 1 cup of flour with 2 cups of water. We're going to mix it together really well. We want to try to get all the lumps out. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. You can use a whisk or you can use the back of the spoon and kind of smash those big chunks of flour. You can also use your hands because we're going to be dipping our hands in here anyway. There's just a few last little pieces of flour. And you're going to take your strips of paper one at a time, dip them into the flour mixture and get them all wet. Try to kind of pull a lot of that excess flour mixture off. Otherwise, it'll get really, really soggy and it'll just take longer to dry. And it can also cause the paper to rip while you're putting it together. And then you're just going to place the strips in different directions, whether you're wrapping it around, going from the top to the bottom, but you want to fill the entire area with this paper mache. You don't want to be able to see any of the foil when you're done. If you want a really thick volcano, maybe you want it thicker on the bottom, you can just keep adding more and more paper mache to give it the right dimension that you want. After you finish doing that, you're going to let it dry overnight. It can take anywhere up to about 24 hours, depending upon how much of the flour and water mixture you put on. But you want to let it dry completely before painting it. You can also put it out in the sun if it's a nice day, and it'll help dry it up in just a couple of hours. Once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and paint it. I've got brown and green paint today, and I'm just going to make it look as realistic as I can. Okay, now that our volcano is completely painted and dried, now it's time to test it. So let's go ahead and put in our baking soda. I'm using a funnel made out of a piece of paper today, which seems to be working pretty well. Let's put in our dish soap and our food coloring. Try to make this a red with a little bit of yellow to make it look as much like lava as possible. All right, moment of truth. Are we ready? Here we go. It's all coming over this side. Turn that around for you. And again, you can continue to add more vinegar to make the reaction go over and over. I hope you had a lot of fun making your volcanoes, and I hope you had a lot of fun learning more about science. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye.